Hi, my name is Sherry Pittman, and I'd like to welcome you to another segment of Survive and Thrive with Sherry. We have with us today Mr. Tom Jones. Mr. Tom Jones, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure to be here.
We've had you here once before, and we're glad to have him back. We have you back today, especially to talk about, you have a play coming out, and it's called
A Long Way Home.
A Long Way Home. So I hope they can get a glimpse of that. If not, we'll take care of that a little bit later. But the play is going to be happening very soon here. You want to give us the date? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's October the 13th and the 14th. October the 13th is a evening at 7 o'clock. October the 14th, which is Sunday, would be at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
And this is going to be at the Perry, Convention Center.
Sure.
Which can hold 4,500 seats, so we have room for y'all to come with no problem. The whole purpose of this, folks came to me and said, hey, Tom, they want to do the play again. I did it at the Hoagland Center for the Arts.
Yes.
And what happened was that a lot of people came, I only did it one weekend, and a lot of people came for the next 2 weekends expecting it to be there.
Oh my goodness. Well, you're only doing it one weekend this time too.
This is it, because it's specifically a fundraiser, and this is a fundraiser for the Sangamon County Veterans Assistance Commission.
Okay.
So it's a fundraiser for veterans. This is the only reason, truthfully, I would have came out and did this again, was because it was for the veterans. Right. And I think it's a very important topic, this A Long Way Home, which is written based on the book I wrote called Lost Survivor.
Yes.
Which is how the transformation of a person that goes to war and is in combat, and how they change so much from that experience that when they come home, that they're out of place. And one of the things to try to grasp in this is what is it that can create such a change in your loved one in such a small period of time?
And then let me just jump in there, because people who went to the Hoagland Center and they saw the play, how long ago was that first?
It was September 2010.
Okay, so it hasn't been that long, a couple of years ago. And they came out of the play, obviously touched and
it was just amazing, the number of, number one, the veterans. We actually had made an announcement that because of the content of the play, they may see some of the veterans will have to leave.
Really?
Because, well, it's bringing experience back to them.
Yes.
They feel it, they sense it, because they've been through it.
Wow.
In terms. But the other part was the number of young teenagers and wives that came up.
Male and female both.
Male
teenagers.
and female both. That they had their fathers or their husbands, when they came back, they were acting so different, so funny. They didn't know who they were. And by looking at the play, they got an understanding of the intensity of how what they went through, that experience, changed them so much.
The loved one who came back home.
The loved one that came back home. Mm-hmm. Because what happens when you go through combat, what happens is you get redefined. Everything that determined who you were before that moment doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is surviving the moment, because people are shooting real bullets at you.
You know, I'm showing my ignorance here. Were most of the veterans in Vietnam War, were they in the jungle, or were there some not in the jungle?
There was some not in the jungle, or somewhere in the jungle. It all depends. It was on bases. They could have been on bases.
Okay.
I was a member of the 3rd Marine Long Range Reconnaissance. 6 of us went behind enemy lines, and we operated for like 2 weeks at a time, and then we would come back out.
So 2 weeks in, and so
about
many,
a week, and then a week when you came out of the bush, right?
And then you would go back in again.
But I was always in the enemy country, because every time we went in, we was always behind the enemy lines. Now, you know, it's only 6 of you, so what you try to do is be quiet as possible and nobody find you.
Yes.
I remember some guy says, well, you carried all these weapons, you know, and you get in firefights. I said, no, you don't understand. When there's only 6 of you and you behind the enemy lines,
you're in their
territory,
camp.
I should say.
Yes.
You automatically surrounded.
Automatically. So you just want to go undetected.
I just want to see what they're doing and then sneak and get back.
Okay.
Unfortunately, most of the patrols didn't, because there were so many folks. So we got in a lot of firefighting.
Most of the patrols did not do what?
Most of the patrols did not go without having contact.
Okay.
You know, because we were there in enemy territory.
And so in a lot of cases, some of them would have gotten caught, is what you're saying.
Oh, got caught quite a few. Well, they got caught, a lot of them got killed.
Okay.
You know, the rate for those in recon was higher because we were always out in the bush among them, as we used to say. And
as opposed to on the base.
As opposed to on the base, you know, where they get mortar attacks and all this, we actually were out among them, living in the jungle just like they were. And you know, that in itself is a shock. But you know, one of the things that it really tried to do is, in the play, is that what happens is, okay, you know, when I came back and I was going to Vietnam, well, number one, I had never been on a plane.
Okay, when you came back.
When I was going.
When you were going, you had never been on a plane.
Never been on a plane.
Okay, so you get on the plane for the
first time.
And you fly all these miles.
Over water.
Over water. Can you swim?
Nah, yeah, I could swim. But I have always been swimming in places I could see the shore or I could see the side of the pool. It wasn't in the middle of the ocean where you see for miles and you don't see nothing.
Gosh. You're not trying to swim out there forever.
So that's the first thing that hits you. Then when you get there, you know, you hear all this war and things blowing up and explosions. And
how long did it take before you heard the first explosion?
Oh, when I got off, when they opened the doors, because the first thing they did when they opened the doors is all the smell of Vietnam came in, which smelled like crap and decayed jungle.
Crap and
decayed jungle. Yeah, that's the first. Yeah, it's decayed.
Oh, decayed. Okay,
decayed.
Gotcha. I'm
decayed.
Sorry.
And when that door opens, because you've been in air conditioning all this time, you know, and you open that and it hits you and it almost slams you in the face like it slapped you. That's when you know you're in a different place and a different time.
So you smell the coffee, if you will, real quick.
This is not normal. And what happens, of course, is then you get into being in Vietnam. You know, one of the things that happens once you get in combat, it redefines who you are. And
you're in combat immediately, aren't you?
Oh yeah, but when I got there, you know, I was there almost a week, almost a week before I went on my first patrol.
Oh, okay, long time.
So
had a little vacation.
They were waiting. Yeah, we're glad you're here. Go out. It's kind of a thing. But what happens is when you get into combat, the only thing that counts is your existence at that moment of staying alive. So everything that defined who you were before, your family, your church, the school, whatever those groups you belong to, this baseball, means nothing. The only thing that means something is how do you stay alive for the next moment?
See, I think that's what the wives and the sons and the daughters back home had no idea.
No, the intensity of it. You know, when you come home, what people would say to you is, well, you're home now, you can forget all of that. But they don't understand what you went through, that it can't be forgotten because now that's who you are.
It's part of your fiber.
That's who you are. In the play, one of the things, you know, and in the book, Lost Survivor, he leaves as Johnny, but he comes back as J.D. And that's who he was. He was J.D. Johnny left, but Johnny did not come home. J.D. came home. Johnny had to cease to exist.
Good little Johnny went over there with all the morals and values
all
that
the things,
been taught him in Wonderful Life, or not, but still, little Johnny went over.
Right.
But in the midst, and little Johnny would be over there about how long?
It's 13 months basic tour.
How long will it take little Johnny to turn into J.D.?
Oh, about 1 or 2 patrols where you have a lot of contact and combat.
So less than a month?
Oh, yes. Oh, it's not a time thing, it's an experience thing.
And why is he J.D.?
Because J.D. has adapted to live in the jungle, to kill and die, to stay alive.
It's just pure and simple
survival. J.D. is a pure survivor.
Was he prepared for that at all?
No. There's no way to prepare you for it. You don't know how you're going to act in combat until it happens. I've seen a lot of men, you know, they talk about what they're going to do once they get over there in the war, and the war will be over because I'm there and I'll just shoot everybody. Well, that's in your mind, but also when you get there and you find out is one of you and 5 of them shooting, now what?
You know what?
It's not a different world.
One of you and 5 of them. You know what? I don't know why, but my mind went to discussions about hell. And sometimes people
It
say,
is hell.
oh, when I get to hell, I'm going to be with my buddies. We're going to have a good time.
Yeah, right. Well, here you at hell, and you are now, is not going to be. You are living it every day.
Wow. So he turns into JD.
JD.
As a matter of
the
survival.
adapter, the survivor.
First month out,
Right.
Johnny, you better
Gone.
forget about Johnny. Quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Well, you know, the thing is, all your morals and everything that you believe in, those are things you believe in. But you in a firefight, you can't not just stand up in a firefight and say, hey, I'm a good person, I don't want to hurt nobody, let me go home. No, it don't work that way. So you have to survive that moment. And that just makes you have to survive another moment like that. And another moment like that. So the intensity of the combat, and it's the continuousness of the environment of the, everything's a threat 24 hours a day, from the air, from the sky, you know, it's
There is
all
no
a
safe
threat.
place.
There is no safe place. You know, and the other thing I tell folks, you know, there are no atheists in foxholes. When there's incoming and the world is blowing up around you, you may be an atheist before, but when them shells blow up around you, you be saying, you know, God, don't get me.
You know, I think that's very interesting, because you say, God don't get me, but at the same time, every moral value and teaching that you had, you've had to suspend.
Exactly.
But in that moment, God don't get me.
That's right.
Wow. We're going to have to take a break. I want you to remind everyone real quick of the day and the time where they can get tickets.
The Perry Capitol Convention Center. It's Saturday, October the 13th, 7 o'clock. Sunday, October the 14th at 5 p.m. You can also get it through Ticketmaster in terms of it.
And the tickets are how much?
And we are going to try to set up so that we can get through some of the veteran posts, and also more people have more access to the tickets.
Awesome.
And we'll be putting more out on that.
Okay.
In terms of that too.
And then how much are the tickets?
The tickets are $25 for general admission, $15 for military veterans, their wives and children.
Okay, good deal. And I want to just strongly suggest that anyone who has had any relative at all that was in the Vietnam War, come out and see the play. You would be in for a, well, I don't know if delightful may not be the right word, but you will definitely be in for an eye-opening experience. How about that? Now, I want to remind you guys that you can catch the show every Wednesday morning at 7:30 a.m. on Fox 55 WRSP Channel 7. And you can also catch us on Access 4 as well at 4:30, 10:30, and again at, 10:30, 4:30, and again at 10:30 at night on, oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. On Wednesday, Saturday mornings. Sorry about that, you guys. At any rate, do come back. Stay with us. We're going to finish up this conversation about A Long Way Home, and we'll be right back. Thank you. Hi, my name is Sherry Pittman, and I'd like to welcome you to join us in watching Survive and Thrive with Sherry every Wednesday morning at 7:30 a.m. on Fox Channel 7 WRSP. You can also catch us on Access 4 at 10:30, 4:30, and again at 10:30 p.m. We look forward to having you join us watching the show. We love to talk about marriages and other things as well, and we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you. Hi, we're back with Mr. Tom Jones here, and we're talking about his new play, or not new play, but his play that will be presented, A Long Way Home, at the Prairie Capitol Convention Center. I'm sorry, you're trying to get a word in edgewise there.
You're doing great. Please continue.
Well, it will be October 13th and 14th. That's a Saturday and a Sunday. The Saturday play will be at 7 p.m. And the Sunday one will be at 5 p.m. Kind of a little bit of a matinee there. The tickets are $25 and $15. $15 if you are a veteran or family
military, wives, and children.
Okay, and $25 otherwise.
For general admission.
General admission. So we want to encourage all of you to take advantage of taking the time to see A Long Way Home, because this is not what you call it. It's not a documentary, is it?
No,
but it's
not
close
a documentary,
to a true story.
But it is based on truth.
Absolutely, and we don't get to hear about what really happened in Vietnam very often, for various reasons. This is an awesome opportunity for those who, like myself, I had relatives that was in Vietnam, and I was told don't ask a question. That was kind of hard for me. But anyway, it's just a great opportunity to learn more about that. But we want to go ahead and talk a little bit about women in combat.
Women in combat. Ever since Vietnam, there has not been distinctive lines that says good guys, bad guys. What has happened is it's been more of guerrilla actions and more terrorists. Now with the National Guard being more involved, and they're usually involved in combat support, which means transportation, maintenance. Or a lot of women went into the National Guard, like most did, to get educational benefits, a little extra money,
Sure.
But now they get deployed, and they're deployed with units that serve combat units, which puts them into the range of the fighting, the combat fighting. So now you got women getting Purple Hearts for being shot. You got women getting Silver Stars and all for being involved in combat.
Do you think that's a bad thing?
Women involved or not?
Right.
I'm not sure it's a bad thing for women to be involved. Most countries, even this country at periods of time, have had women involved. At one time, women were involved because the nature of war was a man thing.
Sure.
Even though the kids and the women are the ones that paid the highest cost in terms of it.
In a different way.
In a different way. But women have always been a very important key of it. But this here is something that happened not because it was a planned action. We're going to bring women in, we're going to, expand the services. It wasn't like that.
No.
This here was happening because we had to employ National Guard folks who are combat support. They are now being put more and more in harm's way, bringing support and supplies to the combat units.
So let me just kind of recap this a little bit. What has happened is that the National Guard was not initially a part of the intricate combat part.
Not right.
And so we had women who may have felt like it was kind of a, safer place to be.
Well, a lot of people used to go to National Guard not to go into the service, to go to war.
But now
you go to National Guard, you can't go to war.
But that's not the case anymore.
No, you can go to war now. And there's multiple deployments that you can also. That's the other thing these kids go through is multiple deployments.
Oh, there's lots of talk about that now, and not even getting an opportunity to, seriously debrief.
And where the impact of that, of course, is on the family. Is like when I speak about this, I say, there's a big difference when a man or a woman comes back from a combat zone. Man comes back and he does something crazy, so he's got pressures. Woman comes back, he opens the door, the husband said, oh, I'm glad you're back, here's the kid, now we can get the laundry the way you want to, and da-da-da-da. If he says, I want to go out and have a drink with the boys, they say, oh, well, he just going, with the folks he served with. Woman served in the same kind of outfits, I'm going to drink with the boys, it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
So there are differences.
Not as easily understood.
No.
Does the military...
More complex.
Does the military do a decent job, you think?
I think they do a lot in offering programs, specifically on bases. Where the problem comes with the National Guard, you may come back to Springfield as a unit, but then you go to your small towns, Pleasant, Sherman and all these other small towns.
No bases.
So there's no basis, whereas it's centralized for the programs.
Right.
So a lot of what happens is, they go back to their communities in those small towns somewhere.
And they struggle alone.
And they struggle by themselves.
Now, what's the closest place in our area for someone to get that?
Oh, they've got several here. You got the vet centers. The National Guard itself has many excellent programs. So there are a lot of programs that are available, but how they get to know about them and how they get the access to them.
Well,
but knowing about them is the key thing.
Knowing about them. And this particular play, A Long Way Home, is intended to assist what particular group in our community?
It's number one, the person that comes back, because what happens is a lot of these things that a vet cannot tell their family. The things I'm talking about in terms of what they went through. I've had veterans come up to me and say, man, you just told it out straight.
Right,
and I
right,
said,
right,
yeah. I
right.
said, how did you do that? Because they couldn't do it.
Right.
And the other part is the family.
So it's a voice for them.
It's a voice for them. It's also the family understanding the setting he was in, in combat and all. And then he comes back home. And
so it gives them more
but his mind is still has all these survival instincts.
Sure. 13 months.
Yes, and his survival instincts override everything.
Right.
And it takes time for him to come back.
And to unwind.
You know, like I said, I know men that cannot go in a restaurant and smell rice. They have to leave because they were either POWs or they were involved in something where the enemy in terms of rice. And the smell of it will make them have a post-traumatic stress episode.
What if the wife cooks it for dinner?
She doesn't do it too many times.
It doesn't take long to figure it out.
No. Because you never know what happened. You know, the saucepan may go flying across the kitchen.
And it could be other types of things. It doesn't have to
And
necessarily.
it has to be. It can be small things.
Triggers.
You know, one of the things is when you leave and you go to war, you have a snapshot of what home is. You know, pictures of folks and experiences and all of that. Well, then, what happens is that you go, and then when you come back, for example, you leave and your wife has long hair. So what you say is, I'm coming back to my wife with long hair. I went 13 months. I didn't live through all of this to get back to that. And when you get home and you walk in, she got short hair. Then you say, where's my wife? She's right in front of you. But the snapshot in your mind you carried about what home is her with long hair.
So is it really that difficult to reconnect?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, can you really be looking at a person standing there?
Oh, yeah.
And not recognize that it's your wife?
You recognize them as your wife.
But it is really...
But the relationship and the conversation is not going to be the same as you had before you left.
You know what? We talked about this a little earlier, and I'm going to say it again. This reminds me of going to a high school graduation, like, 40. I haven't seen a person for 40 years, but this all happens in 13 months.
13 months.
Because of the intensity.
The intensity of the
experience. They come back and they see someone that doesn't look like what they had in their mind for all this time.
Right.
And it's a shock.
It is a shock. And, well, what happens is you lose all your beliefs. Everything you believed in doesn't mean anything when you're in combat. The only thing that means something is, do you have the skills, the resources, the blessing, the luck to live through it? That's all the focus.
Who can help you with the transition? Are there organizations that can
there are a lot of organizations out there. Like I say, the National Guard, each of the services, the military, all have programs. It's getting them into the program and getting them to stay in the program.
Do you think, are there like organizations like churches that should be involved?
I think it's very important for churches and religious organizations to be involved because you're losing your belief systems.
How do you get
what
that
you
back?
believe. The church has got to get involved, and you got to bring that person in so they can trust again.
Wow.
And the beliefs that they have.
That's not easy.
No, it's a challenge. But you got to know it's there first to even meet it.
That's half of the problem, is defining and giving a
Right.
good question for it. Okay.
And churches should be, in religious groups, because that's one of the things that's important to our lives is how we believe in there's something that's bigger than ourselves, something more than ourselves.
Right. Can a person get that back?
Oh, yes. Like there's no atheists in the foxhole, but, in terms of all the other times, it's like, well, I'm alive. God is good. That's all you want to think about.
Wow. You know what? I'm keeping it real here, and I'm thinking, I grew up, spent a good amount of my life in East St. Louis, and I know that there's lots of survival
oh, yes.
that kicks in there.
Right.
And I hear some similarities.
There are similarities. And with our kids on the street, they suffer from post-traumatic. I mean, I grew up for a while in my life in Chicago in the projects. And I can tell you that living, there was all the gangs and all. It was a constant pressure in terms of, not getting in the gang or being in a gang. Either way, it was a constant pressure. If you're not in the gang, everybody messes with you to get in the gang. If you're in the gang, everybody messes with you because you're in the gang. So, but our kids are having that.
Where's the win here? Both of those are no wins. Either way, you lose. So where's the win?
You got to bring the person. You got to bring that person in so they can feel and believe again.
And you think that the religious organizations can do that?
I think that is part of it because it's really sort of an injury to your soul.
You say that there's no atheists in foxholes.
Right.
But at the same time, if you're surviving, there's no goody-goody people in the foxhole either.
Well, it's only through an incoming. When the shells are coming in.
Yes.
When the shells stop, they go back to, whatever, yeah. But when the shells are coming in, God, don't let it be my tide.
And what about the guy that you're in the fight with?
Yeah, the same thing is, you know, and minuscule differences make a difference in war, because you can be a 1 inch this way or a 1/4 inch this way, and that would determine if you are alive or dead. The problem is, you know it. You'll be sitting there and you'll be shooting, and all of a sudden the bullet is zipped right here by your head, that close. Well, you know if it was over here.
Long, right? Yeah.
Right. So that makes you have such an intense. When I came back, it took me 2 years before, because I was in recon, I'm always looking for snipers and ambushes. It took me 2 years before I'm walking down the street with a friend of mine, and I'm looking around, and he says, "What are you doing?" And I answered without thinking. I said, "I'm looking for snipers and ambushes." And he said, "Why? You at home?" But in my mind, yes, in my mind, my instincts, survival instincts, were surveying and looking for anything that can be a threat.
Wow. So you were there 13 months, but 2 years later, back home, you're still looking for the snipers and ambushes. Do you look for them now?
No, now I'm not. But I still have certain instincts. Is when I walk in the room, I like to know where everybody is and which way they're going and why. I don't care about the why part, but where they're coming towards me, away from me, sideways. And that's part of it. But I don't look at it as bad as I was specifically looking for snipers and ambushes.
Gotcha. Well, this has been intense. I hope everyone will join us on October 13th and 14th at the Prairie Capital Convention Center. Mr. Jones, it has been a delight. A long way home. We're glad you're home.
I'm glad I'm home. Thank you. That's one of the things Vietnam veterans say to each other: welcome home.
Welcome home.
Right.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. You guys get your tickets. Come to the Convention Center October 13th and 14th. You can get those $25 and $15 tickets. We're going to wrap this up. Remember, you can catch us on Wednesday mornings at 7:30 a.m. WRSP Fox 55. You can catch us on Saturdays too, 10:30, 4:30, 10:30 on Access 4. Until then, we'll be back. You have a great time. We look forward to seeing you there. Bye-bye.